Tyler, thank you so much for doing this interview with us. I was intrigued by one of your comments on the Gay Fathers group on Facebook about how you work with children with the help of games and technology. So, first of all, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I specialize working mostly with people who are neurodivergent. So that's autism, ADHD, OCD, giftedness. But I also work with neurotypical kids as well as adults and whatnot as well too. But I kind of use technology, iPads, as well as computer games, video games, VR, as a tool to help build a relationship and to build trust with kids in order to get them to open up so I can really like work with them better.
Is it something that you learn? Is it a thing, or is it something that you are developed as a way of, implementing what you learned and what you know into this world of gaming?
Mm-hmm. Well, it wasn't ever anything that was taught in school. I will say that. It's something that's really kind of being built up on current research. I will say that like I didn't start out using video games. It really kind of came to me because I had some kids who were really struggling with like social anxiety, separation anxiety, just didn't feel comfortable in the sessions. And I remember I had one kid who really loved Minecraft and asked if he could bring his tablet into a session one time. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. Like I play Minecraft too. And that I think just really sparked like the ability for us to just be open and to like really get to know each other better. And we really were able to like start talking more openly about stuff after that. So it was just a way to establish a connection.
Right. So I'm curious about this. So you said that this kid was already a big fan of Minecraft. How much of it is about leveraging the sort of comfort that they have in these video games already, and how much of it is about tools? Do you use specialized tools, on tablets, et cetera, that are made for this kind of sort of social connection, or are you just sort of using it as a way of getting them more comfortable because they're already gamers?
Yeah, there are games and applications and stuff out there that are like therapeutic, but that's not really what I use. I just use the games that kids already play and are already exposed to. It's really about meeting the kids where they are. I think my generation and generations before me, like, we played with action figures, we played with dolls, we played like with toys, but kids nowadays, they have digital toys. They're customizing and dressing up their avatars. They are collecting digital pets and things like that. Sure. Like it's all about meeting the kid where they're at and just trying to establish that rapport, that connection, making them feel like they're heard and they're understood. Yeah.
So I want to tie it into, so this week on our podcast, we talked about fears and how you help kids navigate fears. So let's say a kid come to you with a fear of the dark. How would you use Roblox or Minecraft in order to, like, how is it becoming a tool? I want to know a little bit more in specific, that maybe this is something that maybe parents can even, will help them to do at home.
Yeah, I think there can be a lot of different applications. Phobias and specific fears. I think sometimes exposure therapy within the game. Sometimes it's like, if you're afraid of spiders, let's encounter a spider in a virtual world in Minecraft or something like that. It's not going to hurt you. It's digital. It's staying in the computer. We can attack it. We could even set up some cheats so that way it can't attack you. Like, to really just get kids comfortable with whatever that fear might be. I know there's a lot of kids, especially the ones that I work with, who have problems with emotional regulation. So sometimes it's like, they will get really activated and hyper like stimulated, but coming down is really, really challenging. And I've noticed for a lot of kids, especially kids who are autistic or who do have ADHD, playing on a video game, playing on a VR set, it just brings them back down to earth for a minute too, and can really like restabilize for just a minute.
So when it comes to, you mentioned, I think, social anxieties earlier on. What's interesting to me is, on one hand, as you just described with the spiders, which, by the way, if we can do this for cockroaches, for me, we're in. that makes a lot of sense. Now, for social stuff, what's interesting is I think we all know that for some people, not just kids, people in general, the virtual world is providing both an opportunity and a kind of a crutch where they're socializing without having the unpleasant discomfort of doing it face to face. So how do you surf that kind of transition or that difference where on one hand, you have the benefit of that kind of sort of, what do you call it, standoff, right? That comes from doing it virtually. On the other hand, you're not doing it, then you're not experiencing it in real life.
Yeah. I think it's about like slowly kind of increasing a person's comfortability. So it's like if a person has like pretty intense social anxiety, they're not going to be chatting with friends. They're not going to be doing these things. Like it's like if we can do this within a game, like just between two people in a room that feels safe and secure, like, you know, we can do an audio chat together, you know, we can socialize together. Well, maybe let's extend this. Let's bring in a sibling. Let's bring in a friend or someone who can also, like, you know, be playing in the game, but be communicating verbally to one another in the same room. It's like we're starting to kind of dip our toe just a little bit into this fear that we have, into what makes us uncomfortable. We're kind of leaning into this discomfort just a little tad. And I think that kind of opens up the idea and the comfortability with leaning even more into it in the future too.
Yeah. That's really interesting. The language that kids use when they when they're in the virtual world, which we old people often don't understand. Like
he says, "We," not you. I mean,
we.
I don't understand a lot of things too, so I get it.
You know, like ghosting, right? I ghosted him, right? Things like that. What is interesting to me also is when they do step into the real world, when they go to school the next day or whatever, are there sort of tools that you use in talking to them about how they will interact in the real world, which you draw from their experiences in virtual?
Yeah, and sometimes, like, again, I work with kids who have autism, and so social skills is a big one that I work on. So sometimes I will open up Roblox. I'll go to Brookhaven is a favorite of most of the kids. I think I heard you guys mention it in one of your podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so sometimes we'll go in there, you know, we can do this on Zoom, we can do this in person, but, you know, we'll kind of role play essentially and kind of like start to pretend and kind of get comfortable with, oh, well, what is the norm for this? Like when someone approaches me like this, how should I respond? Which I think sometimes that can be a good application for social skills building too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's amazing.
Okay, last question. So we know, and even after we did the show about the podcast about Roblox, we still got comments from parents who are still reluctant to have their kids play on the platform. Can you talk a little bit to these parents? Like, would you recommend to a parent whose kids is having problem and is afraid of these games to go and sign their kid up for this? And what would you say to these parents? I mean, I want to know if there's something that from your point of view you see the benefits, and how do you see the benefit of playing these games?
Yeah. I mean, I don't try to push kids in. Like I have my gaming stuff just kind of like set up in the corner. It's like I also have other things in my room too. I try to meet the kid where they're at. If they don't feel comfortable with it, if that's not something that they're interested in, that's not something that I'm like, hey, let's do this. Again, it's about meeting the child where they're at, finding what it is that they're interested in, and just leaning into that, even if that means, you know, the parent is becoming the student and the kid is becoming the teacher for just a minute. And really, I think the kid just having that control, being able to be the authority sort of, and like being able to be the teacher is great for just building relationships, especially for kids who are in the foster care system or adopted. Like, I think that can be really good, just like meeting them where they're at and letting them have that control for a minute and have that like direction, honestly.
That's incredibly interesting to me, what you just said, because I guess our kids, right? All kids, they learn all the social rules from others, from older people, right? And now all of a sudden, you're right, this is a scenario where they get to teach the adults what the social rules are.
Yeah,
we're generally idiots about the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think after COVID, there's just been such a shift because it's like, for me, it's like I would never justify spending money to dress up my online avatar. Like that just doesn't seem rational to me. But to kids now, it's like that's what you have to do to fit in. That's what you have to do to like be accepted by your peers to a degree. So it's like it's just a whole change, I think, in our world, really.
That's incredible.
Tyler, thank you so much for spending the time and for answering our question. It was really great.
Of course. Thank you for having me.